Hello everybody! Today I have a little tutorial for you guys about how to get better at multiplayer. And starting multiplayer is going to work if you are new. And if you are a little more experienced, I'm sure you will learn a few things. So let's get started. First, I recommend that you start learning and training 3 factions. Would it be for playing ladder or for tournaments? Because tournaments we play best of 3. And then if you reach the finals or some special tournaments, you will most likely be playing best of 5. So then I recommend that you learn 5 factions. Like, you can be very specialized into 1, 2, 3 factions, but then you must at least expand a little and learn a few matchups with a few more factions. And 5 is a good number if you want to win best of 5. Then you will also have to learn the good and bad matchups for all of these factions that you want to play. It's as simple as that. You must also stick to your builds, the ones that you train with. Do not try crazy stuff, crazy new things in tournaments, because it will most likely fail. I have tried, and I do recommend, especially if you start, that if you have 1 or 2 strong builds that you are confident with and that you are actually practiced with, that you stick to it. Would it be for ladder or tournaments? Because you will be more effective at playing those builds the more you play them. So when you are in game, you can have your builds saved here. Example, I do this beautiful autogen. I want to save it. Save here. You give it a name, blah, 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 and you save. And then you can just simply load your build. Here I have a few that I already have done and saved. For example, this one. I believe it is for Dawi and outdated, apparently. Once you are in game, I recommend that you press spacebar, and then you have this little menu here showing you a lot of things that will actually help you a lot in game. So you can see here, all of the army is not highlighted, or you cannot see much, but with these things you can actually show a lot of things. The character aura, so for example here, Morathi, you cannot see her aura, but she has one of, it's encouraging, you know, this thing gives leadership, and she also has different stuff, but anyway, you can just toggle this aura and lock it if you want, always. So you will always see this aura. And then you have the same thing for selection markers, movement pass, fire arcs, a lot of things for all of your units. So when you select a unit, it becomes yellow, and you can see it from pretty far away, which is good. And if you want to lock that thing, you can. Selection markers for all your units. So when you play with the debug cam, you can actually see all of your units, especially each model, highlighted. But if you don't, you can't really see very well what's happening, especially when there's big melee happening. But it's really easy to see yellow against red dots from far away. You can have the fire arcs as well for your missile units. You can see it here, or the shades. Very useful. I believe it's kind of nice. You can hide the foliage as well for the little trees, because if you want to fight in trees and you cannot see anything, you can just hide it like this, and boom, suddenly you see something. You can also show the unit threats, but it's not very useful, but then you do whatever you want, you know. Unit icons, if you want them, they're here. If you want the unit stats bar, it's here. If you want status, that's very good, because you can see which unit is still fresh, which unit is still is actually exhausted or not, which is quite important, or the buffs they have, the special abilities and stuff like this. Now, control groups. Control groups are very important in this game. But not everybody plays with them. It's not obligated to play with them. But it's very useful to make you actually play faster and be more reactive with your special units. So you have to press G, and it's gonna create your groups. So I select these guys, G, 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 and one by one gives me 7 groups if I want. You can also create these groups by just control number, control 7, control 6, control 4, control 9, if you want. Control 7, here you go. When you have your whole army selected, you can just drag it with the Alt and left click. It's very useful to move your whole army and so it stays together at the beginning of a battle. And then especially like you can have your infantry in one group. Just send your infantry and then you can focus on the rest. You can focus your Moratti, everything. And your infantry will just go there. And then you can always just change your mind and poof, take everything again. You can also group whole army or whatever and just group lock. And if you move them, they will stay in this formation, which is quite useful. If you don't want your cav or very fast unit to detach from the main force, you can lock everything. The lock mechanic also gives your whole group, when you tell them to attack, you give them different targets, because they will try to attack right in front of them, the closest enemy. I do not recommend that you do that kind of thing in multiplayer because it's gonna backfire a lot and you would be better to just micro your units one by one. You can also shift right click one of your units and it's gonna give it a path to follow. So you can just, like, let's say take your cav or harpies, something very fast, tell it to go around, it's gonna do it, take its time, and then you can just forget about it and do your thing elsewhere. You also have the guard mode for your units. For melee units, it gives them basically a hold your ground order, and for archers, it's the same, but they will be able to shoot while engaged in melee. Let's say you have some skinks here engaged in melee against your shades. These guys will still be shooting units, but this guy will be fighting. And maybe the guys in the back will also be shooting because you are in guard mode. If you are not, they will all engage in melee. Example here with the Dark Riders. They're engaged in melee, but I'll tell them to focus fire the Saurus warriors, and the guys in the back will fire. But the guys in front will be fighting. Some units have charge defense against large or against everything. So, let's say you are walking toward cav or monster or whatever, and you suddenly are getting charged. If you do not brace, you are going to take full damage. But you can brace, and bracing you can either scroll and just make your unit stop at a moment, or you continue, and at the right moment you just press spacebar. It's gonna make them halt, and in a few seconds they will just place themselves and actually brace. Now some shortcuts that are going to be a bit useful. For example, R is going to make your units either run or walk, the toggle between the two. You have I for unit card. You have F for melee mode, which is very useful for your cav. Here I press F, suddenly they have this little thing going in melee mode. If I want them to stop, F again, and boom. There is also just simply Alt right click, which is giving a melee order without toggling this. You also have some other toggles, example P for pause or play. You have K for cinematic mode, N for zooming in, and then you can just scroll. You have the Y for game chat. And you also have T for changing the speed of the game. When you play in multiplayer, you will also have to know the maps and their features, because they are a big part of your strategy, or they can be, they should be. Example, in Longweird, there is a big forest right in the middle, and you can potentially hide a lot of units in there, or hide units behind it, or even hide artillery, for example. You could have a Hell Cannon here, shooting over into my army, and I simply could not shoot the Hell Cannon. So make sure you always take the map into account when you build your army. The map could be very small, could be very big, could be simply flat or with a lot of hills. So not so good for missile units and more for melee rush. You know, there are a lot of things to take into consideration. A simple rock like this could hide some units and protect you from getting shot. Trees as well. They can simply block fireballs and a lot of things. So you must master the maps and know what they are before you go into a game. Also, make sure at the beginning of a battle that you check the enemy's spells and abilities, so you do not get surprised mid-game by Wilder, Purple Sun or Pendulum. So you should always focus your micro on the most important units as well, because sometimes you simply have a very big army like this, and you're simply gonna take a lot of work for using every unit at the most optimal time. So it's more important to simply focus on the important ones. So here, for example, I'm simply just taking this group, pushing it, whatever, forget about it. And then you simply use your dragon, who is very expensive, is your lord, and is actually gonna either win you or lose you the game. Same thing for these guys. And the cav here, elite cav, lots of gold, very impactful. So you focus on these three groups, and then the rest is just chaff, whatever. So make sure you always focus on the most important units. Also dodge missiles. For example, here I have Malekith. He's gonna get shot by skinks. It's gonna work for archers, for artillery. Make sure you dodge the missiles coming from any side. Also, do not stack your units. For example, here, I did not push all of my cav right here, because all of my cav would be just blobbing like this. I want these guys to go around, attack in the rear. When you get a rear charge, you actually get better stats, technically, because units attack from the back have less melee defense. So if I get a rear charge here, it's a lot more impactful than if I just attack right in the front. So here I got a rear charge, so meaning more damage for me, more units of my own covering the enemy units, and the enemy will not be able to leave because they are surrounded. Now the bait and switch. Very important in multiplayer. For example, here, the cav is going for my bleak swords, and I'm going to actually charge them with my cav. So they will not get the fight they want. They're actually getting caught right before they get it. Getting charged by my cav, and they did not charge them. So it's 100% bad fight for them, and they are losing a very elite cav for it. You can also break the enemy momentum or enemy bracing with single entities and then charge with your units into them and do a lot more damage than you would have done. So here I'm stopping this cav because they are suddenly getting attacked, and the AI being what it is, it's often will break the attack orders of units, and then you can get a free charge on them. And it works the same for infantry, especially bracing units, spears, phoenix guards, stuff like that. You can charge them with either single entities or infantry. Then they will lose their bracing, and you can charge with cav. So now, spaghetti lines. Spaghetti lines are pretty important in Total War because you simply get more units fighting, and if your enemy is not in spaghetti line, he will often get surrounded. Let's say I have a skink unit here fighting. My Bleak Sword will just be able to surround them because I have more ground. I am taking more space. But it also means that if I have more units fighting, I am going to take more damage. And also, I have less mass. If I do a more boxy formation with my infantry, they will have more mass, less people fighting, and it means if you want to defend, these guys will be far better at holding against cav or chariots, and will fight longer. You must also always identify the win condition, your own win condition, and the one of your enemy. Here, my win condition is mostly Malekith staying alive until the end, because he's a fat, powerful dragon and my lord, so he's definitely my win condition. These guys help Malekith staying alive and dish out a lot of damage. They are my main DPS, and these guys so are part of the win condition. These guys as well. They are my tanks, heavy cav, deal a lot of damage. These Bleak Swords are not a win condition. They are just here to tap it and be extra annoying and extra health for my actual important units. Here, this Lizard army has not really a good win condition. This is just a whole lot of infantry, not a very powerful lord. And he had one very expensive and crazy good cav that I focused fire and I killed with my dragon and my cav. So, for example, if it had Mazda Mundi on Slack, obviously this would have been his win condition. Mazda Mundi staying alive until the end and killing everything. Last but not least, the magic. You have to understand every law of magic, what the spells do, what spells are strong, and what spells are actually pretty garbage. You must learn them, how to use them, what they are good against, and they can simply win you games and make a huge difference. Especially spells like Burning Heads, you can simply destroy your whole infantry unit. Spirit Leech, you can just delete enemy lords. Big Sword Stealer, if you catch single entities cav, it can do just so much damage while also healing your lord. You must also learn to use abilities. They are very similar to magic, easier to use most of the time, like Stand Your Ground. It's pretty straightforward, simply buffs all the unit around you, giving leadership and melee defense. Very useful stuff. Or you get more special things like the Trophy Head from the Assassins, simply debuffing a lord or hero, so you can just smack him. Or you get stuff like this, Web of Shadows. It does a Spirit Leash around him, plus a speed debuff. I hope this little video helped, and I will most likely be doing more in-depth stuff in the future. If you want more details about what I thought about today, you can always find me on Discord, and I will gladly talk with you. And if you want to see more stuff like this on my channel, make sure to leave a like or a dislike if you did not like, and subscribe. So I will see you guys very soon, and take care. Bye-bye.